Hello and welcome into the KE Report. Shad and Corey here as your host, and today we're getting an update from Luca Mining. Luca Mining is traded on the TSX.V under the ticker LUCA and on the OTCQX under the ticker LUCMF. And we're joined today with the CEO of Luca Mining, Dan Barnholden. And Dan, always great to get you on the show. It's been about a month and a half since we've chatted here, and want to dig in, first of all, to the operations. Just for people listening in, the company is operating the Campo Morado and the Tahuehueto mines in Mexico. These are polymetallic mines that have five metals in the mix here. You've got zinc, copper, and lead, but a lot of gold and silver as well. And we're going to look into the operations from Q3, but more importantly, Dan, how things are being optimized as we roll into, well, we're midway through it now, Q4. So give us a snapshot of how things went operationally at both mines in Q3.
Yeah, so obviously Q3 was a bit of a disappointment. Q2 we had thought was kind of the bottom and that we expected. I mean, we did expect Q2 to be a little bit weak. Q3 we had hoped to see a bit of a rebound. Q3 took us a little bit longer to make some of the operational changes that we had been working on. At Tahuehueto, the grades were a little bit lower, or frankly, a lot lower than we had expected. And that was really a consequence of we continued to develop. And as we developed through Q3, we got into higher grade ore into Q4. So Q3 at Tahuehueto, the miss was largely driven by the lower grade ore that we moved as a consequence of increased development. As we complete that development and we're mining higher grade ore, we do expect Q4 to be much better. So starting to see some signs of turnaround there. Over at Campo Morado, again, a bit of a disappointment at Campo Morado. That was really driven by recoveries. And so we are working hard, and we've talked in the past on this show about the work that we're doing to improve recoveries, and that's an ongoing effort. I was down to site last week with our friends at Ausenco who are working for us on this opportunity, and we continue to make headway, although frankly, I'll be very honest, it's taken longer and been more difficult than I had hoped and expected, and so we continue to push. And it's a complicated ore body, and we are working on it. We've got a strategy to fix it. We think it's turning around, and it has been harder than we'd hoped.
Dan, what about the cost front too? I realize lower grade increases your overall all-in sustaining costs, especially at Tahuehueto. But in terms of maybe turning the corner on this aspect with the money that you spent last quarter and throughout the year on development, what does that look like for Q4 and into next year on the cost front that, again, were higher for Q3?
Yeah, and you guys understand how mining works. There's really three major inputs into the equation that goes into determining production and costs, right? It's tons moved, it's grade of those tons, and it's recoveries. So if we can continue to move, and this is where we didn't miss this quarter. We moved lots of tons. Our mining rates continued to move up at both mines, and so we're doing really well on mining rates, okay? Grades, I believe, and what we've seen so far in Q4 is that the grades, particularly at Tahuehueto, are going to increase because we're mining in the right areas, the areas that we want to be mining in where we do have higher grades. So that's part two. Part three, recoveries. Recoveries at Tahuehueto continue to be very good. Recoveries at Campo Morado improving. So that all goes into the number of tons produced. And if you move the same amount of rock, but you produce more tons, goes without saying that your unit costs go lower. And so we will expect to see cash flow rise, production rise, unit costs go down as we get a handle on both of these mines and we start to operate them better than we did in Q2 and Q3.
Well, Dan, let's dive in under the hood a little bit further on the recoveries at Campo Morado and put it in the context that historically this has been a zinc forward mine. You know, there's a lot of metals in the mix here, but that was how things were set up. And things are transitioning really more to a precious metals mine. And there's a big opportunity with the gold, and especially in the gold recoveries. You mentioned Ausenco and being on site and looking at this. Maybe explain to people that don't understand how important it's going to be based on where the gold price is to not just pivot, but just get better recoveries from the gold portion of this.
Yeah, and I think we maybe have talked about this in the past, but it's of critical importance to understanding our story. As you go to the north west of where we're currently mining, there are known higher grade gold zones. And we have put out some recent drilling at Reforma. It's called the Reforma Zone. And the drilling there has been, frankly, nothing short of spectacular. I mean, you're talking about drilling that looks like in late August, we put out 37 meters of 14 grams per ton gold equivalent. So that's the area that's going to be the future of this company. It's higher grade gold, and it's about 1.5 to 2 kilometers from the current mining areas. So as we start to mine higher grade gold at Reforma, what we also need to do is improve the gold recoveries. Right now, we only get 25 to 30% of the gold and 30 to 40% of the silver. We are working with Ausenco, and again, I was down at site last week to come up with a strategy, and it will require some capital improvements, some changes to the mill. But we think that we can better than double the precious metals recoveries when we get into the mining at Reforma. So you're talking about, and I've talked about this in the past, doubling the gold grades, doubling the precious metals grades, doubling the precious metals recoveries. If we can do that, the cash flow opportunity at Campo Morado is frankly extraordinary. And so that's really what we're focused on now. And that's what we're expecting to present as an opportunity here for us at Campo Morado over the course of 2026.
So, Dan, from the cash flow side of things, are you going to be able to internally fund these developments and improvements at Campo Morado?
Internally from cash flow, probably not. I mean, I think that the total capital improvements that are going to be required at the mill and underground development to access Reforma, probably in the order of $100-ish million. But I think we've talked in the past about we're very close to being debt free, so debt is certainly an option. We do expect to continue to generate cash flow, so it will be partly internally funded, and we'll see. But I mean, when I think about development and capital investment, if it's a small fraction of your market cap, I think that that's easily manageable.
Yeah, maybe just give us a reminder where you're at with the debt repayment, where it was, and how much you've paid down, because it is impressive.
Yeah, so when I came in a year and a half ago, or a year and 3 months ago, we had about $18.2 million in debt. Today we're under 5. End of the year we'll be under 3, and we will be completely debt free by June of 2026. And so we're making very good headway on that. We're paying it off according to the debt schedule. And what really excites me is the exact moment where we may go look to raise capital to make these capital improvements at our mill at Campo Morado is going to be the exact moment where we're debt free. So that gives us a lot of flexibility on how we go and finance this opportunity at Campo Morado.
Dan, can you provide us with forecasts and even a recap of, look, we've talked kind of high level about what the production looked like and the changes, but what are the, let's say, 2025 outlook in terms of gold equivalent ounces, or however you want to present that so we can get an understanding of where you stand this year and what the changes, what the growth could be into next year in terms of simply ounces produced?
Yeah, we got a little trouble. It was a bit silly because we got a little trouble from the BCSC because the mine was originally built as a zinc mine, and the most recent technical reports are about zinc, and we have been presenting in gold equivalent. And so the forecast was for 80 to 100,000 ounces of gold equivalent production for the company, with about 2/3 of that coming from Campo Morado. We've moved off of that gold equivalent, but from a revenue perspective, you can imagine that we're going to do about $200 million over the course of 2025. We're expecting to have true free cash flow of $5 to $10 million, which is obviously a decline. And again, what happened there, we got out to a very good start with Q1, $11.5 million in free cash flow. We burned a little bit of cash in Q2 and Q3, as you know, investing in underground development and in exploration. Q4, we should be back to making money. So we'll end up the year with probably around $10 million in free cash flow. Gold equivalent production, I would say 80,000 ounces is pretty safe to what that looks like. And what we're working towards in 2026 is technical reports that present in gold equivalent so that we can be a little bit more clear with the market exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, it's harder for retail investors to get their head around zinc equivalent, so it is helpful to have it in gold equivalent. Well, we've been camped out at Campo Morado. Let's pivot a little bit more to Tahuehueto and just the grade-driven growth that you'll see there. Talk about the operations development underground. How are you going to increase the grade?
Well, so at Tahuehueto, we in Q3, and this is a bit of the reason for the miss on grade at Tahuehueto, is we actually changed over our mining contractor. We had previously been using a contractor that was somewhat undercapitalized. We actually had to fund them a little bit. We prepaid them so that they could go and do that underground development. And really, that's a function of being a small emerging company that was undercapitalized. We basically worked with who was willing to work with us. Fast forward to Q3, what we did was we actually turned over our mining contractor. We've got a new, better capitalized, more competent mining contractor. They have done a huge amount of underground development over the course of Q3, which allows us to be mining in the higher grade stuff. And really, if we are mining over 2 grams gold and 50 grams silver and some base metals, we're making money. And so where we missed was we were under 2 grams a ton gold. And I can tell you that we are consistently mining 1,000 tons per day, milling 1,000 tons per day, and it's well in excess of 2 grams gold. So that's a prescription to make money at Tahuehueto.
Are there any major development costs coming for Tahuehueto as well as you continue to increase production?
No, all the money is spent at Tahuehueto. The investment is going to be ongoing underground development, as you'd expect with any underground mine. We do have a couple of initiatives on the mill, but they are, sub 7 figures. You're talking, hundreds of thousands of dollars to make modest improvements to the circuit. And then exploration. We're investing heavily in exploration at Tahuehueto, trying to prove my thesis that there is somewhere on that property a multi-million ounce deposit hiding, and we're going to find it.
Well, let's go there next. Exploration is a big pillar. Well, you got a couple pillars because you're doing it at both mines, but just you announced to the marketplace on the 12th of November a US $25 million exploration program at both mines areas, the Campo Morado and Tahuehueto. Let's talk exploration.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. We announced last week that we had initiated a 3-year plan to really invest heavily in exploration. We're very excited. I mean, we have an incredible exploration team here, guys. Paul Gray, I think we talked maybe about Jill Carville, who has made multiple discoveries in Mexico. She's resident in Mexico. And then Fernando Teliz, who's been, he's a guy who's in his late 50s or 60s, and he has been on virtually every exploration project in Mexico over the course of the last 30 years. So we've got an incredible team. We've got these 2 land packages that have been starved for capital for the last decade, and we're going to get out, we're going to be aggressive, and we're going to spend on exploration, and we're going to make discoveries. And so that's a very exciting component of the story. We've also struck up a partnership with Verify, and I'm not sure if you know the guys at Verify, but they have an artificial intelligence or a machine learning platform that is going to help us with targeting our exploration work. And we announced that last week also. And so really a big component that this story has never had is a big exploration spend. And so $25 million going into exploration, that's a multiple of what we spent in recent years. In recent years, we spent none, but it's a multiple of what we spent in 2025. And we have a high degree of confidence that we're going to start to deliver discoveries, true greenfields discoveries on both of our sites.
Yeah, I saw that news on November 12th about that $25 million 3-year plan and that incorporation of AI. Can you dive a little bit further into how you're planning on allocating some of these meters or the spend compared to, let's say, near mine exploration and growth and these, what sounds like, as you said, greenfield, new discovery potential?
Yeah, well, obviously, we have a fairly small resource at Tahuehueto. We're doing underground exploration there. We're looking to expand and extend the immediate mine life. Right now, it's 5 or 6 years. We'd like to get that well in excess of 10, demonstrate that there's a long mine life, particularly something that remains after we've finished paying off the Empress stream. Over on the other side, Campo Morado, we've got 38 high priority targets. And, if you're not an explorationist, 38 is a lot. It's going to keep us busy for a long period of time. And there's real work to be done. At Campo Morado, the goal isn't necessarily to extend the mine life. There is lots of known resource there. And again, the known resource is higher grade gold. But what we're going to do is get out and do some true greenfields exploration at Campo Morado.
Well, the other area in Tahuehueto that might be nice to dig into is some of these structures that are at depth, in addition to the ones along strike. But you mentioned Creston, Perdido, Santiago. Maybe give us a little color around some of those.
Yeah, well, I think we've talked, and maybe you've seen my presentation where Tahuehueto is into the side of a mountain. We're currently mining on the Creston vein on they call it the west side of the mountain. If you go over to the east side, which is what we've done, and we're drilling back towards the mining area. And we've talked about the Santiago vein, which is on the east side of the mountain. What we're doing is we're trying to drill between the known veining and connect them. And we believe that there could be in excess of 500,000 ounces in the area between the drilling that's been done within the mountain. And so if you think about veins going through the mountain, what we're trying to do is prove that in fact the Creston vein and the Santiago vein are in fact the same vein. And if we can prove that it's the same vein, now you've got a very substantial resource running all the way through the mountain. So this isn't in our plans yet, but ideally what you would do would be to run an exploration drift all the way through the mountain.
Dan, what's a reasonable time frame that we can put on something like this in terms of the exploration and adding resources, adding something to, I guess, future mine plans?
Well, the goal is to have every 6 weeks drilling news from one of our two mines. And so we're anxiously waiting the last of our surface drilling from Tahuehueto that was completed it was actually completed in September. So we've been waiting for quite some time. We took a break for the rainy season. And that's going to be able to start to demonstrate mine life extension at Tahuehueto. We are overdue at both mines for technical reports. Certainly something that we expect to have in the first half of 2026 is new technical reports, which will include new resource estimates, which will give the investment community a bit of a better view on the longer term value of what we have at both of our mines.
Another interesting component you brought up briefly, but it may be nice to unpack, is the silver stream you have with Empress Royalty at Tahuehueto. It's actually a capped stream, but then it changes and downshifts. Maybe walk people through that dynamic.
Yeah, so the original agreement that was struck in 2021 was that we would deliver 1.25 million ounces to Empress, or 100% of our silver until we reach that 1.25 million ounces. So far, we're about a third of the way through that. And remember, we only started commercial production at the beginning of this year. So there's only about 30 months left, and that's 2.5 years. And then it'll drop down to only 20%. And so that will free up literally hundreds of thousands of dollars a month that isn't going out the door to Empress. And that'll be, that's the next big thing. This year in 2026, we'll be debt free. 2027 or early 2028, we'll be out from under the Empress. And so there's lots to look forward to, lots of value to be unlocked by kind of fixing the balance sheet that I inherited when I joined a year and a half ago.
All right, Dan, let's wrap it up here then with a bit of a summary. We've talked everything, production, exploration, some of the financials. In terms of near-term catalysts through the rest of this year and into next year, what should we have our eyes out for?
Well, there's as we've touched on, there's a ton going on here at Luca. We've delivered an exploration plan, so we're going to be executing that exploration plan, short, medium, and long term. Lots of exploration potential. So look for results. Like I said, from either mine, I try to get them out every 6 weeks from one mine or the other. 2, news on the Reforma development. And again, we've commissioned a study from Ausenco. We're going to try to get out as much information over the course of the next couple of weeks of what the gold opportunity could look like and what the timing is around delivering higher grade gold to the market, hopefully into a market where the gold price is here or higher. Ongoing improvements. So Q4, again, we're expecting, and so that's obviously a couple of months away, but we do expect that to start to demonstrate improvements. And then we're also busy looking at M&A opportunities. And so we're not ready to announce something next week, but We think that companies that make acquisitions in this market are richly rewarded. And so we have a team of people diligently looking at new opportunities to bring into the portfolio.
All right. Well, it sounds like we got a lot of news on tap here through the end of the year and going into next year all over the place, operationally, development, metals testing, exploration, possible M&A down the road. So we'll keep our eyes peeled for all of those news releases when they come out to the market. For those of you listening in, definitely click on the link below down in the show notes. It takes you right over to the Luca Mining website, straight to their news section where you can follow along and have those news releases hit your email inbox or just follow along with the news as it drops. Dan, keep us posted. We'll get you back on for an update soon. And as always, looking forward to our next conversation.
Always a pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me.